The Nintendo Switch 2 reveal and its incredibly high game prices had people saying all sorts of bizarre things. How old are you? Great condescending start there. If you're old enough to have played NES or SNES, you remember that games used to cost whatever Nintendo, Sony, or Sega felt like charging. Bro, any company in this world can charge however much they like with whatever products they're selling. That doesn't mean we should accept it. In the 80s or 90s, we as little kids worked up to save money for the $100 game, when that probably translates to $150 to $200 today. Yeah, because back then, video games were way harder to manufacture and distribute, because you actually have to put them in cartridges or discs, depending on the era. Today, we as adults now complain about the $80 to $90 price tag. Yes, because games are cheaper, easier to make, and distribute. You just need an internet connection, and cartridges are so easy to make, you don't even need games in them, and yet the prices are still very high in relation to our economy. I don't know why I used to scrunch my nose more at prices, and yet today, I feel really apathetic. Bro, I don't even buy games or gaming hardware a lot these days. I'm about as apathetic as I can get with a lot of gaming news lately. But you don't need to be a frequent buyer of games to feel bad to the people that really want to know what the Switch 2 is offering without paying a hefty price. These Nintendo Switch 2 defenders are absolutely nuts, man. I don't think $80 is too expensive for a video game. That's your subjective philosophical point of view. And apparently this guy is an EA creator. That explains everything. Do you understand how inflation works? I do understand how inflation works, but even if I don't see how you explaining how inflation works will convince me to spend $80 on a video game. Are you aware that video games priced at $80 today are almost half of what they were priced at in the 90s if you adjust for inflation? Yes. Are you also aware that video games back then are way harder and more expensive to develop? Not to mention they're all physical copies, which means the distribution is way harder. Even if that's not true back then, I don't care. I'm not paying $80 for a video game, and people won't too. Nothing you say will convince me and so many others otherwise. Do you need help processing this? No, but I do think you need help processing what game cartridges are, and the logistics of how to develop in them and how they were distributed back then. Have you seen the Neo Geo cartridges? I hate that video games are littered with baby adults, because it's alienating to not have rocks in your brain. Boo-hoo. You're crying that people are not supporting your billion-dollar corporation. We're not paying $80 for a video game. If you don't like that, maybe you should get those rocks off of your brain. Do you guys want to know why the Nintendo Switch 2 games are expensive? Doug Bowser, the Nintendo of America president, said that he applied variable pricing. Nintendo will look at the games, the breadth and depth of the gameplay, and they will make judgments on how valuable the game is. I mean, if you're gonna have variable pricing, then I'm going to have variable purchases, and so will plenty of people. Except the Nintendo fanboys. Meh, I was paying $90 to $100 games on the NES, SNES, and 64. Good for you, you got the money to afford games. Most people don't. That's when I was cutting grass or shoveling driveways. And now you're defending billion-dollar corporations in social media. How's that going for you? If you can't afford it, it's not for you. I know, it's not for me. That's why I'm not buying it. I neither should a lot of people. I mean, I want a Ferrari, but I can't afford it. It's not for me. Nice of you to compare the Nintendo Switch 2 to a freaking Ferrari. Yes, the Switch 2 is a luxury product, and that's why I recommend most people to buy something else. But hey, I can only make recommendations. You're still the one in charge of your wallets. Of course, some console peasants will share their take on the Nintendo Switch 2 discourse. I am 150% blaming Xbox. I'm sorry, what does Xbox have to do with these prices? What games does the Steam Deck has? Are you for real? Are you seriously going to apply the one game, I don't know why meme to the freaking Steam Deck? It's quite literally a Steam machine. Whatever games that came out on Steam, it's in there. Oh, sorry, are you talking about exclusives? Yeah, we don't have Steam exclusives because PC gamers like to share our experiences with others. Unlike you guys that got salty every time a new PlayStation port is announced. Nobody wants to play your $12 hentai games, weirdo. Why are you searching for hentai on Steam? You actually have to search for them to get these results. How do you know this? Are you jerking your snake to anime girls? Oh no, people are jerking off to anime girls. What should we do? I don't know, maybe find a less irrelevant comeback. Tired of all the double standards lately. Yeah, because no one has ever complained about how expensive the PlayStation Pro was. Not a single person in this universe, right? People make some really odd comparisons. Red Dead Redemption 2 cost $400 million to make from the ground up and sold for $60. Okay, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is an entirely different game to Mario Kart World. One is an open-world, hyper-realistic Western game, and the other one is a Mario Kart game that just so happened to be open-world. I don't know why you're making that comparison. How can anyone possibly justify these atrocious prices from Nintendo? I don't justify these prices, but to compare these two games with each other is ridiculous. These two are doing two entirely different things that appeal to two entirely different crowds. If you want a proper comparison, try comparing it to Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, which not only looks infinitely better, but is also in all platforms, including the original Nintendo Switch. These weebs always reply with some stupid stuff like, because fun is better than graphics. I mean, yes, fun is better than graphics, but it is definitely not $80 worth of fun over graphics. That is at least something we can agree on. I just don't get why you compare these two games. They're catering to two very different crowds. It's not just the Nintendo Switch 2 games being expensive, but the console itself might be affected with tariffs, as the pre-orders are being hampered by it, and everyone is affected. One lesson I wish the anti-woke grifter keep politics out of games crowd would learn is that politics is not some abstract concept you can choose to remove yourself from. Just because politics is an integral part of our everyday life doesn't mean that we should have to deal with real-life politics inside our games. It affects everything in our lives, and it isn't just about owning the libs or whatever. I didn't like the anti-woke grifters either. I see them do every single thing that's the opposite of the woke people, even if that opposite is equally stupid. The woke people hate Trump. That must mean I must love Trump, right? They hate Elon Musk. That means I must love Elon Musk, right? They want to have LGBT people in everything. That's why I want them to not exist in everything, right? They hate sexualization. That's why they have to also hate sexualization, but for an entirely different reason. Okay then. One thing is for sure, Nintendo is a greedy company. That's no secret. That being said, I do think that the tariffs have an effect in some of these prices, because even if Nintendo is not affected by it, the distributors of the consoles are definitely going to be affected by it. Though I'm still not quite sure how the tariffs affect the digital versions, considering that downloading games are easier than sending the physical copies abroad, right? Either way, I personally recommend saving up your money and refrain from buying expensive hardware with expensive games. Or just buy used. When the PS5 was announced, I bought a PS3 instead, even if the compatibility is rather mixed. I was happy about that purchase, but maybe that's just me. The high prices of the Nintendo Switch 2 games will not hamper the upcoming gaming bubble that will burst. Apparently. On Steam, only 28% of players have a PC that can run AAA games at minimum. Okay, what's your point there? Not everyone plays AAA games, and not everyone should. At some point, the bubble has to burst, and it's gonna be worse than when Atari went under. Whoa, hold on a second. Do you seriously think that PC gamers not playing AAA games is gonna cause something to the effect of the 1983 Atari video game crash? You are out of your mind if you think this is the case. Yes, PC gamers mostly play older games instead of the latest AAA titles. We have established that already. That doesn't mean that this bubble is going to crash anytime soon. It just means that people have better taste in gaming than the console gamers playing the latest AAA slop. Oh wait, even console gamers are playing older games too, so I guess the console gaming bubble is going to burst too, right? It's weird when console fanboys use PC tech channels to agree with them. Pulse Hardware echoes Jay's 2 cents by saying it's not a bad idea to switch from PC to console. I don't think it's a bad idea either, depending on what you value as a gamer. I personally value the ability to emulate retro games and sail the seas for games on my PC so that I can save my money on other things that are more important in my life. But you might value getting those PlayStation or console exclusive games day one more than anything. I see nothing wrong with that. Value is subjective from person to person. I just want people to stop saying nonsense. Or keep saying nonsense so that I can show why it's nonsense. PCMR dudes on this app will get mad again, but that's ironically why GPU prices won't come down. I'm sorry, are you blaming PC gamers for GPU prices not coming down? If everyone boycotted this instead of defending and buying, prices would improve. Boycotting what? PC gaming as a whole? What are you even talking about? I don't think the average PC gamers are to blame for prices going up or down. If anything, I'm not blaming the general consumers of PC or consoles in general with the state of the market today. I find that incredibly irresponsible and puts the attention away from the corporations who are actually ripping us off. All the corporations see in us as consumers are ways to make money. They just want to move the money from your pocket to their pocket. That's it. The Switch is a great console. That's why I bought it. That's why many people bought it. The Switch games are great. That's why I bought it. That's why many people bought it. We never asked for Nintendo Switch 2 prices to go this bad. And yet here we are. Some Nvidia GPUs are actually of great value. That's why people bought them. But I never asked for the RTX 50 series to be an absolute waste of time and money. I never asked for their prices to go insanely high in retail stores, and yet here we are. This is like blaming the taxpayers for our government being utter trash. I don't like making that comparison, but some products have very few competitions, and all the choices are trash in some ways or another. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Even with the cases of gacha or free-to-play games where there are loads of whales spending their money on them, I will still blame the corporations for their predatory businesses. The industry is trash because the industry is trash, not because the consumers are feeding the industry. They have a choice to not be trash, but they chose to be trash. That's on them, not us. And that's all for the video today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end, here's a cat. Before we close this video, huge thanks to all these wonderful sponsors. You are all fantastic. If you want to see your name among these legends, then check out the links below, just $1. And you have supported this channel a lot. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you all next time.